I own 17 hotels across 3 continents. I've negotiated billion-dollar deals in rooms where silence costs more than most people earn in a year. But nothing prepared me for the silence at my own dinner table the night my wife asked if I'd be home Thursday evening. Her voice was too careful, too measured, like she was reading from a script she'd rehearsed in front of a mirror. I told her I had a late meeting in Chicago. She smiled, actually smiled, and that's when I knew. After 32 years of marriage, you learn the difference between relief and triumph. What I saw in her eyes wasn't relief. It was victory. The kind that comes when someone thinks they've finally outmaneuvered you. I didn't confront her, not then. Instead, I made a single phone call to Marcus, my head of security, former CIA. The kind of man who can tell you what someone had for breakfast 3 days ago if you need him to. What he discovered made my blood run cold, not with rage, but with something far more dangerous. Clarity. Before I continue, you need to subscribe to Deserved Revenge because what I'm about to reveal will shock you. And if you believe my wife made the worst plan that shattered everything about our family bond, then hit that subscribe button now. Trolls won't. My wife Eleanor had been seeing someone for 8 months. A corporate consultant named Derek Hartwell, 43, divorced 2 years prior. He worked in mid-level management at a firm that handled some of our supplier contracts. Not wealthy, not particularly successful, just available and willing to tell my wife all the things she apparently needed to hear. Marcus showed me the bank statements. Eleanor had been using our joint account to fund their little romance. Expensive wines I never tasted. Hotel rooms I never slept in. Gifts I never received. But here's what caught my attention. Thursday night. She'd made a reservation at Marchand's, the most exclusive French restaurant in the city, a place where I'd proposed to her 33 years ago. She was taking him there, to our place, to the table where I'd promised her forever. The reservation was under her maiden name. Clever, but not clever enough. I sat in my office that night, the city lights blinking below me like distant stars, and I made my decision. I wouldn't scream, I wouldn't throw her out. I wouldn't even let her know I knew. Not yet. Instead, I would give her exactly what she wanted. A romantic dinner at Marchand's. With one small addition she hadn't planned for. I called Marchand's myself, spoke directly to Laurent, the owner. We'd known each other for 20 years. I'd invested in his first restaurant when banks wouldn't touch him. He owed me more than money. He owed me loyalty. I explained what I needed. The table directly next to Eleanor's reservation, close enough to hear every word, close enough to watch every touch. Laurent didn't ask questions. He simply said yes. Then came the second call, the one that would make Thursday night unforgettable. I contacted Derek's ex-wife, Victoria Hartwell. I'd never met her, never even heard her name until Marcus handed me the file. But I knew her story. Derek had left her after 19 years of marriage, drained their joint accounts, moved out while she was visiting her dying mother. Left her with 2 teenage sons and a mortgage she couldn't afford alone. She picked up on the third ring. Her voice was tired, guarded. I introduced myself, told her who I was, told her what her ex-husband was doing. There was a long pause. Then she laughed. Not a happy sound. Something brittle and sharp. She asked what I wanted. I told her the truth. I wanted her to have dinner with me. Thursday night, Marchand's. Front row seats to watch her ex-husband romance another man's wife with money he didn't have and charm he'd recycled from their marriage. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said something I'll never forget. She said, "Will there be wine?" I told her the best in the house. She said she'd be there. I hung up and stared at my phone. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. I felt calm, preternaturally calm. Like a surgeon before the first incision. Eleanor came home late that night. She kissed my cheek, asked about my day. I told her it was productive. She smiled and went upstairs. I poured myself a scotch, sat in the dark, and waited for Thursday. The next 3 days passed like a slow-motion countdown. Eleanor was giddy, humming in the kitchen, spending hours in front of the mirror. She bought a new dress, emerald green, low cut, the kind of thing she hadn't worn for me in a decade. I complimented her on it. She blushed, actually blushed, like a teenager sneaking out to meet a boy her parents wouldn't approve of. I played my role perfectly. The oblivious husband, the workaholic too buried in spreadsheets to notice his wife slipping away. I even told her Wednesday night that my Chicago meeting had been moved up. I'd be flying out Thursday afternoon, wouldn't be home until late. She tried to hide her relief, failed miserably, touched my arm, said she'd miss me. I told her I'd miss her too. It wasn't entirely a lie. I would miss the woman I thought she was. But that woman had died somewhere between our anniversary and the first time she let Derek Hartwell touch her. And I was about to bury her memory in the most public way possible. Thursday morning I woke up early, hit the gym, showered, dressed in my best suit, charcoal gray, Italian wool, the one Eleanor always said made me look dangerous. I wanted to look dangerous. I wanted Derek Hartwell to see exactly who he'd been playing against. I picked up Victoria at 6. She lived in a modest townhouse on the east side, the kind of neighborhood where people still mowed their own lawns. She stepped out wearing a simple black dress, hair pulled back, minimal makeup. But her eyes were sharp, focused. She slid into the passenger seat of my car and looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, "You know this won't fix anything." I told her I knew. She nodded, said, "Good, as long as we're clear." We drove in silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the silence of two soldiers before a battle. Two people who'd been betrayed by the same kind of coward. Two people who deserved to watch that coward squirm. We arrived at Marchand's at 7:15. Laurent greeted us personally, led us to our table. And there, not 10 feet away, I saw her. Eleanor, sitting across from a man I'd never met, but already despised. Derek Hartwell, average height, thinning hair, expensive watch he probably couldn't afford. He was laughing at something Eleanor said. She was leaning forward, hand on his. And for the first time in 3 days, I felt something other than calm. I felt rage, but I didn't let it show. I simply sat down, ordered wine, and waited for them to notice. It took less than a minute. Eleanor glanced up, saw me, and the color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. Derek followed her gaze, looked confused, then concerned, then terrified. Because sitting next to me, calm as Sunday morning, was the ex-wife he'd left broken and bleeding. Victoria raised her wine glass, smiled, and mouthed 2 words. "Hello, Derek." What happened next would change everything. Eleanor's hand slipped off Derek's. The fork she'd been holding clattered onto her plate, the sound slicing through the low murmur of French conversation and soft jazz. She stared at me like I was a ghost. Not the kind that haunts, the kind that condemns. I didn't move, didn't stand, didn't wave. I simply looked at her. Let the weight of my gaze settle on her shoulders like a judge's gavel. Derek turned back to her, whispering something urgent. Probably asking who I was. Probably asking why she looked like she'd just seen her life collapse in real time. Victoria leaned toward me and spoke quietly, her voice steady as steel. "He's already sweating." I glanced at Derek. She was right. A thin sheen of moisture glistened on his forehead, despite the restaurant's perfect climate control. His hand trembled as he reached for his water glass. He took a sip, then another, like a man trying to swallow down panic. Eleanor finally found her voice. It came out strangled, thin. She said something to Derek I couldn't quite hear. He shook his head. She insisted. He looked at me again. This time our eyes met, and I smiled. Not warm, not kind. The smile of a man who holds all the cards and is about to lay them on the table one by one. Laurent appeared at our table with the first course, seared scallops with champagne beurre blanc. He set the plates down with the reverence of a man presenting art. "Compliments of the house, Monsieur William," he said in his thick French accent. Loud enough for the neighboring tables to hear, loud enough for Eleanor to hear. Her eyes widened. Derek's jaw tightened. Laurent gave a small bow and walked away, leaving a cloud of expensive cologne and unspoken judgment. Victoria cut into her scallop, took a bite, closed her eyes. "God, this is good." I tried mine. She was right. Perfectly seared. Buttery. Rich. But I barely tasted it. My attention was locked on Eleanor. She wasn't eating. She wasn't even pretending. She was staring at her plate like it was a script she couldn't read. Derek leaned close to her again. This time I heard him clearly. "Who is he?" Eleanor's voice cracked. "My husband." The look on Derek's face was almost worth the 8 months of betrayal. Almost. If you're still with me, you won't believe what happens next. Drop a comment, "Cheating destroys families forever," below with your country, so I know you're here. Derek's fork hit his plate. He sat back hard enough that his chair creaked. His mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. Eleanor reached for his hand, but he pulled away, looked at her like she'd just told him the building was on fire. "Your husband?" His voice was too loud. A couple at the table behind them glanced over. Eleanor shushed him, tried to smile, tried to salvage something. But her hands were shaking. Derek looked at me again, then at Victoria. You could see the gears turning, trying to figure out who she was, why she was here. Eleanor must have seen it too, because her face went from pale to gray. "Is that?" she whispered. Derek didn't answer. He didn't have to. Victoria raised her glass toward him. "Hello, Derek. It's been a while." His face went red, then white, then red again. He looked like a man having a stroke in slow motion. He turned back to Eleanor, his voice a harsh whisper. "You told me he was never around. You told me he didn't care." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "He doesn't." I took a sip of my wine. Let her words hang in the air. Didn't correct her. Didn't defend myself. I just waited. Because the truth was about to correct her for me. Laurent returned with the second course. Duck confit with blackberry reduction. He set it in front of us with the same careful ceremony. Then he turned to Eleanor's table. "Is everything to your satisfaction, madam?" His tone was polite, professional. But there was a coldness underneath that only someone who knew him would catch. Eleanor nodded quickly. "Yes, fine, thank you." Laurent smiled, didn't move, just stood there, waiting. Derek shifted uncomfortably. "We're fine, thanks." Laurent's smile didn't waver. "Very good, monsieur. Please let me know if you need anything. Monsieur William is a very dear friend. I want to ensure everyone has a memorable evening." He let the words sink in. Then he walked away. Derek's face was the color of raw meat. Eleanor looked like she might cry, or run, or both. I cut into my duck, took a bite, let the silence do the work. Victoria was enjoying herself. I could see it in the way she held her fork, the way she occasionally glanced at Derek with the faintest hint of a smirk. She wasn't cruel by nature, but she'd earned this moment, and she was savoring it. "He used to take me here," she said quietly, just loud enough for me to hear, before he decided I wasn't worth the effort anymore. I looked at her. "I'm sorry." She shook her head. "Don't be. I'm not." She nodded toward Derek. "Look at him. He's terrified." She was right. Derek kept glancing at the door like he was calculating escape routes. But he didn't leave. Maybe he thought running would make it worse. Maybe he was too paralyzed to move. Either way, he stayed. And so did Eleanor. And so did I. The third course arrived. Lobster thermidor. Rich, decadent, the kind of dish that demands your full attention. I gave it none. I was watching Eleanor. She'd stopped pretending to eat. Her hands were folded in her lap. Her head was down. She looked small, fragile, like a woman who'd just realized she'd bet everything on a losing hand. Derek was whispering to her urgently. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read his body language. He was angry, defensive, probably blaming her for not warning him, for dragging him into this, for making him look like a fool. Eleanor shook her head, whispered back. He hissed something sharp. She flinched. And for a moment, just a moment, I felt something close to pity. Then I remembered the bank statements, the lies, the smile on her face when she thought she'd outsmarted me. The pity evaporated. I turned to Victoria. "How are you holding up?" She smiled. A real one this time. "Better than I've felt in 2 years. Derek stood up suddenly, too fast. His chair scraped loudly against the floor. Several heads turned. Eleanor grabbed his wrist. "Don't!" He yanked his arm away. "I need air." He walked toward the exit. Stiff, mechanical, like a man trying not to run. Eleanor sat frozen, tears streaming down her face now. She didn't wipe them away, just let them fall onto her untouched plate. Laurent appeared beside her. "Is Monsieur leaving?" Eleanor nodded, couldn't speak. Laurent's expression didn't change. "Shall I bring the check?" She nodded again. He walked away, returned less than a minute later with a leather portfolio. Set it in front of her, she opened it, stared at the total, and I watched the final piece of her composure shatter. The bill was over $800. She didn't have that kind of cash. And her card, the joint account card, had been frozen that morning. By me. She looked up, scanned the restaurant, found me. Our eyes locked. And in that moment, she understood. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't bad luck. This was calculated, deliberate, surgical. I raised my glass. She looked away, fumbled for her phone, probably texting Derek, begging him to come back, to help. But Derek was already gone. I'd watched him get into an Uber through the front window. He wasn't coming back. Laurent returned. "Is there a problem, madam?" Eleanor's voice cracked. "My card isn't working." Laurent nodded sympathetically. "These things happen. Perhaps you have another method of payment?" She shook her head, tears falling faster now. Laurent glanced at me. I gave the smallest nod. He turned back to Eleanor. "Allow me to speak with the manager." He walked away. Eleanor buried her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook, and I felt nothing. Victoria was watching me. "You froze her card." It wasn't a question. I nodded. She tilted her head. "That's cold." I met her eyes. "She earned it." Laurent returned with the manager, a tall woman in a crisp suit. She spoke to Eleanor in low tones, too quiet for me to hear. But I saw Eleanor's face, saw the shame, the humiliation, the realization that she was about to be escorted out of the restaurant she'd chosen to celebrate her affair. The manager glanced at me. I stood, walked over. "Is there a problem?" Eleanor looked up. Her face was a ruin. Mascara streaked, eyes red. She didn't speak. The manager hesitated. "The payment didn't go through." I pulled out my wallet, handed her my card. "Put it on my account." The manager looked confused. Eleanor looked horrified. "Please include a 20% gratuity and a bottle of Laurent's best champagne for the lady at my table." The manager took my card. "Of course, Monsieur William." I turned to Eleanor, leaned down, spoke quietly. "Go home, pack your things. Be gone by morning." Her breath hitched. "William," I straightened. "We're done." I walked back to my table, sat down. Victoria was staring at me with something like awe. "Damn," she whispered. I picked up my wine, took a sip. Watched Eleanor gather her purse with shaking hands. Stand. Walk toward the exit. She didn't look back. The door closed behind her. And just like that, 32 years ended. Not with a bang. With a bill she couldn't pay and a husband she'd underestimated. Victoria raised her glass. "To revenge." I clinked mine against hers. "To clarity." The champagne arrived in a silver bucket, condensation beading on the glass like cold sweat. Laurent opened it himself with the practiced twist of a man who'd done this 10,000 times. The cork sighed free, no pop, no fanfare. Just a whisper of release. He poured 2 flutes and set the bottle back in the ice. "Compliments of Monsieur William," he said with a slight bow. Victoria took hers and studied the bubbles rising in lazy spirals. This is the part where most people feel guilty. I lifted my glass. Let the light catch the gold liquid. "Do you?" She thought about it, took a sip. "No," I smiled. "Neither do I." We drank in silence. Around us, the restaurant hummed with quiet conversation, clinking silverware, laughter from a corner table. No one knew what had just happened. No one except the 3 of us. And Derek, wherever he was. Probably in the back of that Uber, spiraling, wondering how his perfect night had turned into a public execution. Good. Let him wonder. Victoria set her glass down and looked at me. Really looked. "What happens now?" I considered the question. "She moves out, files for divorce, takes whatever the prenup allows." "Which is?" "Not much." Her eyebrows lifted. "You had a prenup?" I nodded. "Signed 32 years ago. She didn't read it. Said she trusted me." I let that hang in the air. Victoria smiled. Not cruel, just knowing. "And Derek?" I leaned back in my chair. "What about him?" "You're not going after him?" I shook my head. "I don't need to. You saw him. He's already destroyed." She tilted her head. "He left me with nothing. Took everything. And you're just going to let him walk?" I met her eyes. "I'm not letting him walk. I'm letting him run. There's a difference." She frowned. I leaned forward. "Derek's firm handles contracts for 3 of my suppliers. As of tomorrow morning, those contracts are under review. By Monday, they'll be canceled. His boss will ask why. He'll find out Derek was having an affair with a client's wife. My wife. He'll be fired by Tuesday." Victoria's eyes widened. "You're going to cost him his job." "I'm going to cost him everything." I took another sip. Let it settle. His reputation, his income, his ability to find work in this city. By the end of the month, he'll be exactly where he left you. Broke, alone, wondering how it all fell apart. She stared at me. That's not revenge. That's annihilation. I didn't disagree. She sat back, shook her head slowly. I don't know whether to be terrified of you or impressed. Be neither. Just enjoy the champagne. She laughed, a real one, the kind that shakes your shoulders. You're a scary man, William. I smiled. Only to people who cross me. The next course arrived. Wagyu beef with truffle butter. The smell alone was enough to make you forget your troubles. Victoria cut into hers and closed her eyes. God, I haven't had a meal like this in years. I watched her savor it. Watched the tension leave her shoulders. For the first time since I'd picked her up, she looked at peace. Can I ask you something? She said after a moment. Of course. Why didn't you just divorce her quietly? Why the public humiliation? I set my fork down, thought about it. Because quiet is what she expected. Quiet is what she counted on. She thought I'd be too busy, too proud, too old to make a scene. I looked toward the door where Eleanor had walked out. She thought she was smarter than me. Victoria nodded slowly. And you needed her to know she wasn't. I needed her to feel what I felt. Betrayal, shock, helplessness. I picked up my fork again. She got all three. We finished the meal in companionable silence. Dessert came, creme brulee with fresh berries. I cracked the sugar crust with my spoon. The sound was satisfying, sharp, final, like breaking something that can't be repaired. Victoria finished hers first, sat back with a contented sigh. Thank you. For what? For this. For letting me be part of it. For making him see me. I nodded. You deserved to be seen. She looked down at her hands. I spent 2 years invisible. To him, to everyone. I forgot what it felt like to matter. I reached across the table, placed my hand over hers. You matter. She looked up, eyes bright. So do you. We sat like that for a moment, two broken people who'd found a strange kind of solace in shared revenge. Then I pulled my hand back, called for the check. Laurent brought it on a silver tray. I signed without looking, added a generous tip, stood and offered Victoria my arm. She took it. We walked out together into the cool night air. Does Victoria deserve to be seen? Comment yes or no under this video and tell me why. The valet brought my car around. A black Mercedes, understated, elegant. I opened the door for Victoria. She slid in. I walked around and got in the driver's seat, started the engine. The dashboard glowed soft blue. I pulled out into traffic. The city lights blurred past. Neither of us spoke. There was nothing left to say. I dropped her off at her townhouse just after 10. She hesitated before getting out. Will I see you again? I thought about it. Probably not. She nodded. That's what I figured. She opened the door, paused, turned back. For what it's worth, she's an idiot. I smiled. So is he. She laughed. Got out, closed the door, walked up to her front steps, and didn't look back. I waited until she was inside, lights on, safe. Then I drove home. The house was dark when I arrived. Eleanor's car was gone. I walked through the rooms, turning on lights. Everything looked the same, but it felt different. Empty, not lonely, just vacant, like a hotel room after checkout. I poured myself a scotch, sat in my study, stared at the bookshelves I'd spent 30 years filling. Eleanor had never read a single one. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through the messages. 43 from Eleanor. I didn't read them, deleted them all. Blocked her number. Then I opened my contacts, found Marcus, typed a message. Freeze all joint accounts, change the locks, remove her name from everything. He responded immediately. Already done. I smiled, set the phone down, finished my scotch, went upstairs. The bed was made. Hospital corners. Eleanor's side untouched. I lay down on my side, stared at the ceiling, and for the first time in 8 months, I slept through the night. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through the windows. No alarm, no rush. I made coffee, read the paper, answered emails. At 9, my lawyer called. She's requesting a meeting. Denied. She's claiming emotional distress. Not my problem. She wants half. I laughed. She can want all she likes. The prenup is ironclad. I'll file the papers today. Thank you. I hung up, took my coffee out onto the terrace. The city stretched out below me. Millions of people living their little dramas, their betrayals, their revenges. I was just one more. But I'd done it right. No screaming, no violence. Just cold, surgical precision. Eleanor would walk away with a small settlement, enough to live on if she was careful. Not enough to live well. Derek would lose everything, his job, his reputation, his future, and I would move on, older, wiser, and completely untouchable. My phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Thank you again. Last night was the best revenge I could have asked for. I typed back, you're welcome, take care of yourself. She sent a smiley face. I pocketed my phone, looked out at the city, and realized something. I didn't miss Eleanor. I missed the idea of her, the version I'd built in my head 30 years ago. But that woman had never really existed. I'd been in love with a ghost, and ghosts can't hurt you once you stop believing in them. The divorce papers arrived by courier on a Friday afternoon. Thick manila envelope, my name printed in clean block letters. I signed for it at the door and carried it to my study. Set it on the desk. Stared at it for a long moment. 32 years reduced to paperwork. I opened it, scanned the pages, legal jargon, clauses, terms. Eleanor's signature at the bottom, shaky and small. My lawyer had already reviewed everything. The prenup held. She'd get a one-time settlement, $250,000. The house stayed mine. The accounts stayed mine. The business stayed mine. She'd fought for more, threatened to drag me through court. My lawyer reminded her what discovery would look like. Bank statements showing her funding the affair. Text messages my investigator had recovered. Emails, photos. She'd folded in less than a week. I picked up my pen, signed my name next to hers. And just like that, it was over. I called my lawyer, told him to file immediately. He said he'd have it done by end of business. I thanked him, hung up, sat in the silence of my study. The bookshelves, the leather chairs. The window overlooking the garden Eleanor had never planted. I should have felt something. Relief, sadness, anger. But I felt nothing. Just a quiet, hollow calm. Like the moment after a storm when the wind finally stops. I stood, walked to the bar cart, poured myself a scotch even though it was only 3 in the afternoon, raised the glass to the empty room. To freedom. I drank. It burned going down. Good. I needed to feel something. I set the glass down, pulled out my phone, scrolled through my contacts, stopped on Victoria's name, hesitated, then hit call. She answered on the second ring. William? Are you busy? No. Why? I signed the papers. Silence, then. How do you feel? I thought about it. I don't know. You want company? I did. Yes. I'll be there in an hour. She arrived with a bottle of wine and a small overnight bag. I raised an eyebrow. She shrugged. I figured you might not want to be alone tonight. She was right. I didn't. We sat on the terrace as the sun set. Didn't talk much, just sipped wine and watched the sky turn from gold to pink to deep purple. When the stars came out, she finally spoke. Do you regret it? The divorce? The whole thing, the dinner, the public humiliation, all of it. I considered the question. No, not even a little. I looked at her. She made her choice. I made mine. Regret doesn't factor in. She nodded, took another sip. Derek called me yesterday. I turned. What did he say? He wanted to apologize, said he didn't know I'd be there, said it was a mistake. What did you tell him? She smiled. I told him mistakes have consequences. Then I hung up. I laughed. Actually laughed. She joined in, and for a moment the weight lifted. We moved inside when the temperature dropped. She curled up on the couch. I built a fire. We didn't need it, but it felt right. Something warm in a cold house. Can I ask you something? She said. Anything. Do you think you'll ever trust anyone again? I stared into the flames. I don't know. Maybe. Someday. But not soon. No, not soon. She nodded. Me neither. We sat in silence. The fire crackled. Outside, the city hummed. I'm reading and replying to every comment under this post, I said suddenly. She looked confused. What? I smiled. Something I need to do. For myself. She didn't ask, just nodded. Like she understood even when she didn't. That's when I knew. She was the first person in years who didn't need me to explain everything. Who just let me be. The next morning I woke to the smell of coffee. Found Victoria in the kitchen, barefoot, making breakfast. Eggs, toast, fresh fruit. She looked up when I walked in. Hope you don't mind. I couldn't sleep. Not at all. I poured myself a cup, watched her work. She moved with easy confidence, like she'd been here 100 times. I got an email this morning, she said without looking up. From Derek's ex-boss. I set my cup down. And? He wanted to thank me. For what? For the information I provided about Derek's conduct. I frowned. You didn't provide any information. She smiled. Flipped an egg. I know, but apparently someone did. Anonymously, with screenshots, bank records, everything. I said nothing. She plated the eggs, turned, looked at me. That was you, wasn't it? I took a sip of coffee. I have no idea what you're talking about. She laughed, set the plates on the counter. You're a dangerous man, William. So you've said. We ate breakfast together, talked about small things, the weather, books, travel. Nothing heavy. It felt normal, easy. When she left an hour later, she hugged me at the door, held on a little longer than necessary. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For reminding me I'm not invisible. I pulled back, looked her in the eyes. You were never invisible. He just refused to see you. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and left. I stood in the doorway and watched her drive away. The house felt quiet again. But not empty, just peaceful. Over the next few weeks, I rebuilt, sold a few properties I didn't need. Donated to charities Eleanor had always ignored. Started going to the gym again, reading more, sleeping better. I didn't hear from Eleanor. My lawyer said she'd moved to another state, closer to her sister. I didn't ask which one, didn't care. Derek, on the other hand, became a cautionary tale. Word spread fast in our industry. Affair with a client's wife, fired for ethics violations, unhirable. I heard through Marcus that he'd moved back in with his parents at 43. I felt no satisfaction, no vindication, just a quiet acknowledgement that actions have consequences. and some consequences are permanent. One evening, about a month after the divorce was finalized, I was sitting on my terrace when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? William? A woman's voice. Familiar but distant. It's Eleanor. I said nothing. I wanted to say, I'm sorry. Silence. I know that doesn't mean anything now. I know I destroyed everything, but I needed you to hear it. I stared out at the city. Okay. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Eleanor? Her breath hitched. I don't know. I guess I thought maybe you'd forgive me. I closed my eyes. I don't forgive you, but I don't hate you either. I just don't feel anything. She was quiet for a long time. Then, I deserve that. Yes, you do. Goodbye, William. Goodbye. She hung up. I set the phone down, poured myself a drink, and realized something. I meant what I said. I didn't hate her. Hate requires energy, investment. She wasn't worth either. 3 months after the divorce, I received an invitation. Embossed card, heavy stock. A charity gala for children's hospitals, one of the organizations I'd quietly donated to over the years. Eleanor used to attend these with me, smile for the cameras, pretend to care. I almost declined. Then I thought, why should I? I bought a ticket, reserved a table, went alone. The ballroom was elegant. Chandeliers, live orchestra, men in tuxedos, women in gowns that cost more than most cars. I recognized half the room, industry rivals, old colleagues, a few genuine friends. I made my way through the crowd, shook hands, exchanged pleasantries, and then I saw her, Victoria, standing near the bar in a navy blue dress, hair down, smiling at something a waiter said. She looked radiant. I walked over. Fancy meeting you here. She turned. Her face lit up. William? I didn't know you'd be here. I could say the same. She gestured to the room. My company bought a table. Mandatory attendance. Mine too. Except I own the company. She laughed. Must be nice. It has its perks. We talked for a while. Easy conversation. No wait, no history. Just two people enjoying each other's company. When the music started, I did something I hadn't done in years. I asked her to dance. She hesitated, then took my hand. We moved onto the floor. The orchestra played something slow. Sinatra, I think. I couldn't remember the name. Didn't matter. She fit perfectly in my arms, not too close, not too far, just right. This is nice, she said quietly. It is. I never thought I'd feel normal again. I looked down at her. Do you feel normal? She thought about it. No, but I feel better, and that's enough. I nodded. We danced in silence. Around us, other couples swayed, laughed, whispered. We just moved. When the song ended, we stayed on the floor for the next one, and the one after that. By the third song, people were starting to notice. I didn't care. Neither did she. Later, we sat at my table, ate dinner, drank wine, laughed at the auctioneer's overly dramatic presentation. I bid on a weekend in Napa. Won. Didn't even want it. Just liked the idea of winning. Victoria shook her head. You're incorrigible. I'm competitive. Same thing. I smiled. Probably. When the evening wound down, I walked her to her car. The valet brought it around, a modest sedan, clean, well-maintained. She unlocked it, but didn't get in. I had a really good time tonight. So did I. We should do this again. I looked at her, really looked. At the woman who'd sat across from me at Marchand's with nothing but revenge in her heart. Who'd laughed with me, cried with me, rebuilt with me. Yes, we should. She smiled, leaned up, kissed my cheek, then got in her car and drove away. I stood there for a moment, watching her taillights disappear. Then I got in my own car, drove home. The house didn't feel empty anymore, just quiet. There's a difference. Over the next few months, Victoria and I became something I didn't have a name for. Not quite dating, not quite friends. Something in between. We'd meet for dinner once a week, sometimes more. Talk about everything and nothing. She told me about her sons, how they were doing in college, how proud she was. I told her about my business, my plans to step back, let younger people take the lead. We never talked about Eleanor or Derek. They were ghosts. And ghosts only have power if you let them. One night, over dessert at a small Italian place she loved, she asked me something. Do you think people can start over? Really start over? I thought about it. I think people can try. Whether they succeed depends on what they're willing to leave behind. She nodded. And what are you willing to leave behind? I looked at her. Everything that doesn't matter. And what does matter? This. Right now. She reached across the table, took my hand. Me too. 6 months after the gala, I sold my company. Not all of it. Just controlling interest. Enough to step back, live on my terms. I kept a seat on the board. Consultant role. But the day-to-day grind was someone else's problem now. I felt lighter, freer. I traveled. Paris, Tokyo, Buenos Aires. Places Eleanor had always refused to go. Too far, too foreign, too uncomfortable. I sent Victoria postcards. She sent back photos of her garden, her sons, her life. We stayed connected, not desperately, just consistently. When I got back, I called her. Dinner, always. We met at a new place downtown, farm to table. Tiny portions, overpriced, perfect. Over wine, I told her about my trips. She told me about a promotion at work. We laughed, talked, existed. And somewhere between the second and third course, I realized something. I was happy. Not the shallow surface kind. The deep, quiet kind. The kind that doesn't need validation. Just is. At the end of the night, I drove her home. Walked her to the door. She unlocked it, turned. Do you want to come in? I did. Yes. We sat on her couch, talked until 2 in the morning. Fell asleep there. Woke up to sunlight streaming through her windows. She made coffee. I made breakfast. We moved around each other like we'd done this 1,000 times. Maybe in another life we had. When I finally left, late morning, she walked me to my car. Thank you. For what? For being patient? For not rushing? For just being? I touched her face. Thank you for seeing me. She smiled, kissed me, not on the cheek, on the lips, soft, warm, real. I kissed her back. When we pulled apart, I said, I'll call you. I know. A year after the divorce, I ran into Eleanor. Pure chance, a coffee shop near my office. She was in line ahead of me. Didn't see me at first. She looked different. Older, tired, hair shorter, clothes simpler. When she turned and saw me, she froze. William? Eleanor? Silence. People moved around us, ordered. Paid, left. We just stood there. Finally, she spoke. You look good. Thank you. So do you. A lie, but a kind one. I heard you sold your company. Part of it, she nodded. That's good. You deserve to enjoy life. I didn't respond. She shifted her weight. I'm with someone new. Good for you. He's nothing like Derek or you. He's simple, kind. I'm glad. She looked down. I really am sorry, William. For everything. I believed her. I know. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? I thought about it. Really thought. I already have. Her eyes filled. Really? Yes, forgiveness isn't for you. It's for me. And I'm done carrying it. She nodded, wiped her eyes. Thank you. I nodded back. She got her coffee, left. I ordered mine, sat by the window, and felt nothing but peace. That night, I had dinner with Victoria. Told her about running into Eleanor. She listened, didn't interrupt. When I finished, she asked, "How did it feel?" Like closing a book I'd already finished. She smiled. Good. We ate, talked about the future, trips we wanted to take, things we wanted to do. We didn't make promises, didn't need to. We just existed. Together. And that was enough. As I drove home that night, I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the revenge, the pain, the healing. And I realized something. Eleanor didn't destroy me. She freed me. Freed me from a marriage that had died years before she cheated. Freed me from the illusion of loyalty that was really just routine. Freed me to find something real. And I had. Not in grand gestures or dramatic moments, but in quiet dinners, honest conversations. A woman who saw me. Not my money. Not my status. Just me. That was revenge enough. Not the dinner at Marchand's, not the frozen accounts or the ruined reputations. But this. Building something better from the ashes, living well, loving honestly, moving forward. Here's the truth I've learned. Revenge isn't about destroying someone else. It's about refusing to let them destroy you. It's about taking back control, rebuilding, becoming stronger, wiser, better. Eleanor tried to break me. Derek tried to humiliate me. They both failed. Because I didn't let the betrayal define me. I let it refine me. I learned who I could trust, what I truly valued, what I was willing to fight for, and what I was willing to walk away from. That's the lesson. Not every wrong needs to be punished, but every wound needs to heal. And healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing not to let the past poison your future. So to anyone watching this who's been betrayed, cheated on, left behind, know this. You will survive. You will rebuild. And if you're smart, you'll come out stronger. Not bitter, not broken, stronger. Because the best revenge isn't hurting them. It's becoming someone they can no longer hurt. Live well, love honestly, and never let anyone make you feel invisible. You matter. Your story matters. And your future is yours to write. Now go write it.